The network of regional educational laboratories, funded by the U.S. Department of Education and known as RELs, is engaging groups of researchers, policymakers, and practitioners across the country to work together to shape important research agendas in each region. These groups are known as research alliances. Working through new and existing relationships, REL Northeast Islands reached out to stakeholders across the region to form 8 research alliances. The alliances address regional priorities such as educator effectiveness, rural education, and college readiness. REL staff members have quickly realized that alliances can create regional capacity through communities of practice.
These highly collaborative groups will enable members to learn from one another as well as from REL staff and develop contacts that persist outside our REL.
In the spring of 2012, alliances convened for the first time to develop goals and a vision for the work ahead. You'll hear from several REL staff members about facilitating the core planning groups, starting with Research Alliance Manager Andrew Seeger.
I think where it's going is a variety of different research projects that are significantly influenced by the members of the alliances. And that's very different from what it's been in the past. It's a real learning process for us.
Pam Buffington describes the value of this new program of work.
We have a couple of purposes as facilitators, and one is to move the research forward. The other is to build a community of practice of researchers and practitioners, so they're truly a part of the changing culture of what we're doing. And that's why it's really important to involve people who are connected to their colleagues in lots of different ways.
To help alliances create a long-term research agenda, the REL used a consistent approach that was customized for each alliance. Over the summer, alliances met twice, face-to-face or by webinar, in workshops that lasted about 2.5 hours.
We do want all of them to have a research agenda, and we'd like them to have gone through a similar process. Customize it somewhat, but really have people go through the same major steps so that we would give them similar kinds of information, give them similar kinds of experiences of prioritizing and talking about issues and going from identifying topics to identifying questions.
A major goal is that each alliance will exist for its own purposes, independent of the REL. So the REL's approach encourages ownership by the members, creating common understanding and building working relationships as members began the process of crafting coherent and long-term research agendas, developing the capacity of alliances and their members. Here's Pam Buffington again.
One of the goals of these alliances is to build capacity. Here it's capacity building both of the researchers to understand how practitioners are seeing things, and also for the practitioners to get a sense of what is going on with research as it relates to these issues.
Following the Alliance kickoff meetings, the REL Northeast Islands implemented 6 steps to develop important and workable research questions. 1. Recruit additional Alliance members. 2. Prepare REL staff and Alliance members with advanced readings and other materials. 3. Convene members to generate topics and research questions. 4. Provide education about strong research designs. 5. Prioritize researchable questions. And 6. Follow up to continue the conversation and engage members in the draft agenda. Let's look at each step and the lessons that REL staffers have learned so far. Recruitment was already well underway by the time of kickoff meetings and continues. For example, the facilitators of the Rural Alliance began with individual in-depth conversations to gauge interest, followed by an online meeting to clarify the purpose, goals, and expectations for participation. Advanced work begins with developing an understanding of the issues from both practitioner and researcher perspectives. Karen Shackman talks about educator evaluation policies.
We heard again and again, I'd like to have a better sense of what's happening around us. We sort of stepped in and did that first, and give them some language and some ideas for discussion of the research agenda.
Staff members figured out ways to convene alliances in different workshop formats, in-person meetings, virtual sessions, and blended approaches in which some members meet in one place and others dial in. Haruna Ba, co-facilitator of the Rural Alliance, said that online meetings are excellent for preparation, bringing people into discussions of readings before they meet. Face-to-face meetings are ideal for talking through themes and getting deeper into questions. Members need an understanding of the qualities of research designs because different questions will be better served by different designs. So each workshop included a presentation about the types of designs and their purposes and uses. Tailoring the presentation of research designs to the background and experience of Alliance members ensures that everyone understands the research perspective, language, and task at hand. Co-constructing a research agenda begins by eliciting individuals' specific ideas about topics and questions, and moves to expanding into more general themes and questions. The process involves clarifying ideas, getting a sense of group interest in topics and questions, clustering and looking for common threads, and creating and recasting categories. The process involves broadening, narrowing, and then really focusing in.
Our REL staff contributed by sifting, organizing, and reducing all of the information the Alliance members generated into something that is manageable. We also tried to be really clear about our limitations. An example is that our group generated questions around educator evaluation and teacher preparation. The topic was really outside the focus of our Research Alliance goal, but that we'll work hard to find some other collaborators who might investigate some of those topics.
To ensure buy-in to the research agenda, it's essential to keep members involved in the Alliance partnership after the workshops. Part of the ongoing work of each Alliance is to share the priority questions with colleagues for feedback, inviting comment from a growing circle of interested stakeholders. The Emerging Research Agenda is a living document that Alliances will revisit and refine over time. The Rural District's Research Alliance is focusing on questions such as what improvements in student learning are associated with successful implementation of particular technologies? Are there effective means of communicating local data and trends to educators, community members, and parents? The Educator Effectiveness Research Alliance is focusing on questions such as how do evaluation systems affect professional development and teachers' practices? How do evaluation systems change professional culture? As the Alliance has learned from the process so far, the REL is attending to short-term wins as the long-term agenda development continues. First, Karen Shackman.
There's this ongoing issue about having something to give people, so they walk away from that meeting having gotten something, not just given. It is really important for us to be thinking about, well, what can we give them now that can help them do their work?
Pam Buffington on co-constructing the research agenda.
Stay true to the definition of what collaborative research is. You don't move too quickly to trying to drive an agenda or to produce a product. Value that relationship building, providing opportunities for them to actually share what's critical to their work.
Karen Shackman points out the risks involved in setting appropriate expectations.
We have to be careful about not over-promising. If I were going to give this advice, it would be to think really honestly about what you can achieve in this time frame.
Susan Mundry cautions about not settling too quickly on an agenda.
By designing a process to generate a research agenda driven by the immediate needs of our stakeholders, we uncover topics that are most pressing for them right now. What that didn't anticipate is how priorities might change in the future.
Alliance members have also provided some feedback on the work to date. They compliment the process as well organized and engaging. They find the work difficult but gratifying. Time to reflect between meetings seems critical. Several alliances have benefited from meeting face-to-face to learn from each other in a relaxed environment. Technology provides the option of convening dispersed members, but also presents challenges. Some members are eager for more practitioner involvement and hope to build increased ownership in the alliance over time. The alliances are off to a good start. Next, each will engage in follow-up convenings and new workshops to advance their emerging agendas. The alliances will be learning to build their communities of practice and grow networks that help members learn from each other. You can follow the progress of research alliances on the REL Northeast Islands website by signing up for our newsletter or visiting the pages of individual alliances. This production is the first in a series to explore the journey of REL Northeast Islands research alliances over the next 3 to 5 years.